That's why people often say, I can't think straight, or I keep forgetting their name, or I feel overwhelmed, or none of this makes any sense. It's not imagined, it is physiology.
Just a quick note before we start the full episode. If you're listening and thinking, I really need some of this guidance in my own life, my coaching program Rise is where I support women through these kinds of transitions in a more personal way. I'll leave the details in the show notes if you'd like to explore it. Hello and welcome to Midlife Answers. I'm Rachel Fortune. This is the podcast for women navigating transitions like perimenopause, relationships, confidence and well-being. Here we cut through the noise to focus on one real question at a time, sharing clear answers and practical next steps that actually fit into real life, all in around 15 minutes. Today we're talking about cognition, which might sound like quite a clinical word, but actually for so many women in midlife, it's something we feel every single day. It's those moments where you lose your words mid-sentence, forget why you walked into a room, or just don't feel as mentally sharp as you used to. I can relate to all of those things. And I think for a lot of us, there's a question underneath it all. Why am I so forgetful? And can I blame this on aging, or is it something else? Because cognition isn't just about memory or focus. It's about feeling like yourself again, feeling confident in conversations, clear in your thinking, and having the mental energy to show up in your life. So today I'm joined by Natasha, a wellness consultant, to help us unpack what's really going on, and more importantly, explain what we can actually do to support our cognition in midlife. Welcome, Natasha. It is so great to have you on Midlife Answers today. I would love to start with you and get your personal opinion, please, about why you think this conversation around cognition is so important to be having now. Is this something that you've experienced yourself? Have you had brain fog or memory dips, or are you just not feeling as sharp as you can do at times?
Oh my goodness, have I experienced brain fog?
Along with 99% of everyone else.
Let's be honest. I mean, I tried to make myself a cup of tea this morning and put a coffee pod in there and into the actual mug itself. So, I mean, that just goes to show I'm well and truly still in it. But yeah, no, I think, look, we pay so much attention to what we eat, exercise to help our bodies feel healthy. But in all honesty, the mind, I think, needs equally as much attention. And really, it affects everyone. It's not just about memory in the clinical sense, as you've just said. It's about how we feel when we get up in the morning. It's remembering what our kids need to take into school every day, having the motivation to go to the gym, better focus, as well as feeling like yourself in a work meeting or meeting with friends. So I've personally feel this is a really important topic. I've gone through my own experience with this. Having just had children, I've experienced low mood, the mental load, as well as the constant memory loss. And I'm very, very much still in that experience today. I'm even having to use prompters in this podcast because it's very much, even though the knowledge is there, I still need support and help with it. And that's okay. It's coming round to that acceptance, you know. But I think through my own personal experience, I was really interested to see what happens cognitively as you progress through significant life stages. Not only have I been working with clients on how to optimize their brain function, but I've also partnered with the most incredible performance psychologist and neuro expert as part of my coaching, as it's fascinating to see how the brain works. And she recently did a brain map on me. So again, it was fascinating to see how it was all working.
Wow, that is amazing. And I think just from a personal perspective, I can relate to what you've been saying about the forgetfulness after children, but
Yeah.
also forgetting names, Natasha. I will walk into a room and not know why I am there. And then also come face to face with someone who I've genuinely known for years, and I
Yeah.
cannot for the life of me remember their name. And I
Yeah.
think so many other women can relate to this. So if we're having that forgetfulness, that feeling a bit foggy, is this down to age? Is this kind of something that happens during midlife and it steadily gets worse as we age? Or is there something else going on underneath?
I mean, it's often presented as aging, but usually it's far more layered than that. Of course, when you're going through perimenopause and menopause, estrogen is one of the dominant hormones that fluctuates the most, and that influences your memory, mood, your energy, as well as your brain function. So when hormones fluctuate, cognition can feel different. But what is interesting is that the brain itself makes up around 2% of the body's weight, but it uses roughly 20 to 25% of the total energy that you intake, which is incredible if you think about it. So it's a really important organ that we need to pay more attention to. And that's why when you have poor sleep or you're lacking in nutrients or blood sugar is unstable or stress is high, the brain feels that really quickly. There's also some fascinating research showing that the female brain is actually dynamic across hormonal transitions. Studies that suggest that perimenopause and menopause, there can be temporary changes in the brain, and that specifically affects memory as well as emotional regulation. But the good thing is, the brain is also highly adaptive and capable of reorganizing itself. So when people describe brain fog, as you've just mentioned, what's happening is a combination of things, such as stress hormones like cortisol can impair the activity of the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is involved in focus, planning, as well as decision making and working memory, while also affecting the hippocampus, which is important for learning and memory formation. So that's why, and I think we say a lot about how impactful chronic stress can be. It's really important that that can then have an impact on how well you are functioning cognitively. So that's why people often say, I can't think straight, or I keep forgetting their name, or I feel overwhelmed, or none of this makes any sense. It's not imagined, it is physiology, essentially. Um,
And and it shows how the body is all links together and one area impacts the other. And I just want to highlight that fact that you said again, almost 25% of our body's energy
mm,
is taken up by the brain. That is
yeah,
that's a quarter. So in order to be able to support that, we need to know what we can be doing. So if we can just jump into that area then and talk about how we can, whether that's through supplements or nutrients or doing something else, if we want to support our memory or our focus and our energy. Because I think actually when we think about cognitive behaviors, we think more about mental load when
mm,
actually it impacts our physicality as well. So
yeah.
what is out there for us to use and utilize and to support us during midlife?
Sure. I mean, just to take a step back quickly, I mean, I've worked with clients who are going through midlife and often complain of what I would call external factors. And this could be because they are having to care for elderly parents, or they're going through a
Sure.
divorce, or they have a senior role that's putting a lot of pressure on them within the corporate world. So even though these things are external to you, you can't control them. They
Yeah.
are somewhat inevitable as well. There are things that you can do to control how you cope with them to support your brain's ability and function. And I'm a big believer that when your body is showing symptoms, these are signals to your body trying to communicate with you, essentially. So it's about listening to your body.
You mentioned signals then, and I think that's really important to maybe just talk about a little bit. What should we be looking for then? If we can't control the external, what can we be looking for internally?
I think when you're presenting those classical symptoms of fatigue, forgetfulness, low mood, lack of focus, lack of drive, lack of libido, all of these things can be symptoms or signals that you're essentially lacking in whatever it might be, whether that is you're not taking time out from whatever that trigger might be. It might be a certain nutrient that you're deficient in. There are many different factors that play
Sure.
towards that.
Sure, and I suppose the right response to that is that none of this is abnormal. It's
No.
it's okay to have any of these symptoms and to get help in order to support yourself going forward. So if we were just talk about at this moment in time, though, what can people start to think about in terms of nutrients and looking after ourselves?
Yeah. So the good thing is there are many that contribute towards improving cognition. I think the first and the most crucial are B vitamins. So they are the brain's energy vitamins, if you like. They are crucial because they help convert food into cellular energy and support neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. But they are also the most volatile and fragile. So when you're cooking, say, your leafy vegetables, which are in abundance of B vitamins, you want to minimize the amount that they're cooking for example.
You don't want
Um,
to overcook them. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, minimize the cooking, steam them subject to what you're cooking, but 2 to 3 minutes. You don't need to overdo it. You want them to be, I would say, more on the al dente side. And that's also
Because if
choice.
you overcook them, because if you overcook them, you're destroying the nutrients.
Destroying the nutrients, they're all going to be released into the water. What would be great is to reuse the water as well as part of a stock, for example. So yeah, but the key ones to pay attention to would be B12, which can present brain fog, low mood, poor memory. This is actually one you can have tested on the NHS through bloods, but just remember to remove any supplements for at least 24 to 72 hours before doing so to show your real levels. And it's really key for and relevant for those who are vegans or vegetarians. B9, folate, which is needed for methylation and DNA repair, is key, as well as B6. Now, this one supports the production of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which are the feel good hormones and transmitters. So, these are particularly important for those who are suffering with PMS and perimenopause.
That's fabulous. So it's the B vitamins, and these can be taken obviously in supplement form. But the best thing would be to get it through your diet.
Yeah, leafy green veg, some meat, some dairy products as well. A couple of other nutrients because I could go on for ages, but I just want to make sure that we capture the kind of key ones. So, iron levels, again, it's key for transporting oxygen to the brain. Again, you can have this one checked on the NHS, but don't just check your iron, it's also your stores too, so your ferritin levels. Omega 3, these are your sort of brain structure, mood, and inflammation fatty acids. Now, if you imagine your brain is rich in fats, so particularly DHA, which is one form, but another is EPA. Now, they support cell membrane structure, neurocommunication, mood stability. So, really key to be obtaining, plenty of omegas, and that's through kind of oily fish. Um, Magnesium, best form would be glycinate or biglycinate or threonate. Again, very great for calming support. Vitamin D, we can often see we're very depleted in the winter months. So keeping on top of that because it's not just for immunity, it's also for brain health and hormones. Zinc is one that's less talked about, but equally important. Again, it's found in seafood as well as oysters. Choline is one of the most underrated cognition nutrients that supports memory, and it's in fact it's required to make a particular type of neurotransmitter that's heavily involved in memory, learning, and mental processing. Again, they're found in sources such as eggs, liver, fish, and meat. Don't forget to eat plenty of protein. I think there's a lot of chat at the moment around the importance of protein, and it really is important for cognition as well. Neurotransmitters are made from amino acids, so poor intake of protein can absolutely affect cognition. And then the last two, I would say, are lion's mane. It's been shown to help with neuroplasticity and has been heavily studied as a medical mushroom to support cognitive health. And then finally, creatine monohydrate, which is becoming the most researched supplements out there. But I think the final point to make is these nutrients are incredible, but they are not only essential for the integrity and health of the brain, they're also essential integral for the health of the gut. And the gut brain axis is so important, and supporting that with nutrients really does have a positive impact.
Absolutely. And that is a very extensive list. And I want to pull up on one of those in a bit more detail. But before doing so, I'm just thinking about the cost of all this, Natasha. If we were to go out and buy all those individual supplements, is a multivitamin as effective as taking the individual vitamins?
So I would always say that with certain vitamin levels, you want to really see where you're at benchmark wise through testing.
Okay.
And if you can get those done through the NHS, then you can through a
Okay.
simple blood test. because taking supplements for the sake of taking them is a very expensive and sometimes pointless thing to do. It's really advised that you do speak to a healthcare professional who understands you and your symptoms before taking supplements, because you could be taking them for the wrong reasons or taking the wrong dosage, and it wouldn't get you anywhere. So I think supplements are absolutely key. For example, vitamin D in the winter to supplement, absolutely. But there is also ways of obtaining those nutrients through incredible organic sources. Going and supporting your local market, going and eating seasonally, and not completely grilling and burning your food to smithereens. You want to be, having just if you think about, if you're cooking your food, a lot of it will lose the nutrients. So as long as you're not only obtaining it from a organic, high quality source, but you're cooking it well, you should be obtaining the majority of those nutrients through your diet.
I think when it comes to cooking, but also with lifestyle choices, I think it's trying to keep it simple at this stage of life.
100.
Don't overcomplicate things. But on that note, you mentioned creatine. Now,
Mm.
I'm curious around this because this is a supplement that I've heard much more in the gym context in terms of endurance and strength and building up almost like muscle. So I'm really intrigued to hear your take on why we should be having creatine from a cognitive perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, creatine is, I mean, I take it daily. It's so much more than just a gym supplement. It's a highly effective, evidence backed supplement. It helps to generate ATP, which is essentially the body's quick energy currency. And that matters in muscle, but also the brain. So, the brain is a highly energy demanding source. So, anything that supports cellular energy can be relevant for cognition. There are some emerging studies suggesting that a potential role for creatine is presented in reducing symptoms for depression as well as anxiety, and potentially aiding in Alzheimer's disease. So it's a heavily studied, heavily researched supplement at the moment. And for women in midlife, it becomes especially interesting because it can not only support the brain, but also the body, as you mentioned, in terms of its strength and lean muscle mass. Now, as we progress through perimenopause and menopause, we can lose muscle mass. So we want to obtain that through not only strength training, but supplementing with the likes of creatine. So strength training, which is key for that, creatine can then help make that training, or strength training, I should say, more effective to avoid sarcopenia.
That is fascinating because it's
Mm.
something that I would have just bypassed. I wouldn't have taken any notice of it. But having heard what you've just said and how important it is to complement what you're already doing in terms of strength training,
Yeah.
it almost seems a necessity. So I'm putting it on my shopping list.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Natasha, thank you so much for today. That is such an insightful conversation. I know there was a lot to take away in terms of the supplements. So for people that do want to get in touch with you, I'm going to put your details in the show notes and you can have much more personal, private, one-on-one conversations with people. But I think what we need to take away from this conversation before
Mm.
I end with the last question is it's okay. What we're going through is absolutely normal, and there's no reason to fear it or to not talk about it. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing, go and get that support. But what we would like to do for the purpose of this conversation, as I do with all Midlife Answers episodes, is to end with some realistic steps that people can start taking today that
Yeah.
aren't overwhelming, that
Mhm.
can support their cognitive health going forward. So can you share some of those with us?
Yeah. I think the first could be to introduce creatine. And this would be a simple powder that you can add to either a smoothie, or you can find some that have electrolytes in them, and it's just added to water. So it's a really simple and easy way of getting that creatine of at least minimum of 5 grams a day into your morning routine. Um, if you're going to be taking any form of vitamins, it's being consistent. That's the key, making sure it's every single day. Don't sort of decide to take them on one day and not the next. It has to be consistent. Putting them next to your bed, or even putting them next to where you make the coffee in the morning, just somewhere easy for you to see. Um, Listen, I know some of this might not seem easy for some, but it can be for others. But if you can integrate strength training, I couldn't recommend it more. It's been such an important part of my routine, and many of my clients have noticed the benefits and mental clarity coming back, just knowing that that movement's, it's releasing the right hormones as well as supporting their strength as they get older. So that's really key. Um, and then finally, if you can, even if you're just getting outside for a quick breath of fresh air before the kids scream and wake you up in the morning, um, I've set my alarm earlier to get up before my kids, which I know some people might find crazy. I've only just come out of the newborn phase. I say just, my kids one, but with it being only a year down the line, sleep to me was very much a precious part, and I decided, right, I'm gonna set my alarm at 6, wake up before the kids, so at least I can get outside, get some fresh air, get some sun into my eyes now that we're in spring, as well as being able to have literally 10 minutes to myself. And that for me means that I'm doing something for myself rather than someone else first thing in the morning. And it sets my morning as well as the day off in a perfect way.
Just reflecting on this conversation, I think what really stayed with me is how quickly we can lose confidence when we don't feel as mentally sharp as we used to. But actually, what Natasha explained so clearly is that it isn't just in our heads or something we have to just accept. It's physiological, and it's often our body asking for more support. And for me, it really comes back to the basics: moving our bodies, getting outside, fresh air, eating good quality food, and not overcomplicating it. Oh, and sleep. We cannot forget about sleep. It's not one magic solution, it's the consistency of those small things that really support our cognitive health over time. If this is something you're navigating, you might also find it helpful to listen to the episode with Holly on confidence and my conversations with Sue around strength and training. They all link together more than we realise. On the next episode of Midlife Answers, we're asking a question I think so many of us quietly sit with. What's next for me in midlife? This is such an enlightening conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss this or any other future episodes. If this conversation helped, or if you're navigating other midlife questions right now, there are more episodes of Midlife Answers waiting for you, each one focused on one real question at a time, with clear, calm, practical guidance. And don't forget, if you have questions about midlife, please send them in. I love hearing from you, so if you've got a question you'd love us to cover in a future bite-sized episode, send it to me on Instagram at Midlife Answers or through the link in the show notes. Midlife can feel confusing at times and even a little isolating, but you don't have to figure it out on your own. This space is here for you. Thank you, as always, for listening, and I will see you next time on Midlife Answers.